Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, Instagram fam, friends and followers of as-Saafiy, and welcome to another episode of Revert Reflections. And we've been spending the last few weeks talking about Allah's existence, particularly answering some of the shubuhat, some of the dubious assertions and spacious arguments of the deniers of Allah's existence. And obviously, we want to bring this part of the discussion to a close and get on to some more important issues, more pertinent issues for the believers as it relates to the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our belief in Allah, under the theme, this overarching theme of back to basics. But before we depart from this discussion and our response to atheism, I wanted to address one last tactic of the deniers of God's existence, or one final justification that they often provide for their denial, and one additional or one final dubious assertion or spacious argument that we may hear, which may cause some believers who are weak in faith to begin to question their faith. And this dubious assertion that they do, this shubha, is that they will often ask for a highly specific sign. And they often are intentionally unreasonable in their specificity. So they ask, in order to say, well, if you want us to believe in God, then give us a highly specific sign. And they themselves are the ones who feel that it is their right to designate, to identify that sign, to say, this is the sign, the highly specific sign that you will have to provide in order for us to believe, in order to secure our belief and our faith in the existence of God. And in most cases, they are intentionally unreasonable in the sign that they specify or designate. Now, from our perspective as believers, there are two things wrong with this. Two reasons why we shouldn't be swayed or allow our faith to be shaken or undermined by this demand. First, the first reason why we as believers should not be shaken by this, our faith should not be shaken, we should not begin to question Allah's existence, is because we've seen this before. This is not a new tactic. The disbelievers since time immemorial have seldom been original or innovative in their attempts to justify their disbelief, to justify their denial of God's existence or their disbelief in religion. Rather, what the disbelievers have always done from the beginning of time and throughout history is recycle old ideas and give them a contemporary veneer. So the people during the Prophet's time, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they also refused to believe. And when they refused to believe, one of the justifications they gave for disbelieving is they insisted that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam provide them with a highly specific sign or a number of highly specific signs. They said, we won't believe in you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, until you meet this, and this unreasonable request, or you provide us with these highly specific supernatural signs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually describes this in the Quran, describes this discussion and the demands that they made in order for them to believe. In order to secure our belief, then you're going to have to do this, this, and this. You're going to have to produce this highly specific sign or these highly specific signs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Isra, in the 17th chapter of the Quran, toward the end of the chapter, he says, وَقَالُوا لَن نُؤْمِنَ لَكَ حَتَّى تَفْجُرْ لَنَا مِنَ الْأَرْضِ يَنْبُوعًا أو تكون لك جنة من نخيل أو عنب فتفجر الأنهار خلالها تفجيرا أو تسقط السماء علينا أو تسقط السماء كما زعمت علينا كسفا أو تأتي بالله والملائكة قبيلا أو يكون لك بيت من زخرف أو ترقى في السماء ولن نؤمن لرقيك حتى تنزل علينا كتابا نقرأه قل سبحان ربي هل كنت إلا بشرا رسولا. So in this passage of the Quran, toward the end of Surah Al-Isra, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the disbelievers, they said to the Prophet during his time, they challenged the Prophet, saying, we will never believe in you until you cause a spring to gush forth from the earth for us. And they said this in a place, in a barren desert, a valley, in which what? There wasn't much water. This was something which was highly unlikely. It would be a miracle. So they asked for this highly specific and intentionally unreasonable sign. Or until you have a garden of palm trees and vineyards, again, in a barren desert where there was no foliage and there was no agriculture, and cause rivers to flow abundantly in it, again, in a place where there was very little water, something miraculous, a highly specific and intentionally unreasonable sign. Or cause the sky to fall upon us in pieces, as you have claimed. Or bring Allah and the angels before us face to face. Let us see Allah face to face. Let us see the unseen world of the angels face to face. Or until you have a house of gold, or you ascend into heaven, you fly like a bird. And even then, we will not believe in your ascension. We will not believe that we're seeing what we're seeing until you bring down a book to us that we can read for ourselves. Say, glory be to my Lord. Am I anything other than a human messenger? So brothers and sisters, the first thing that we have to realize when we hear this argument from the disbelievers, from the deniers of God's existence, is this is just an old tactic being recycled with a contemporary veneer. And so we've seen this before. It's an old tactic. It's not something that should shake the faith of the believers. Why? Because it's nothing new. It's nothing new. This is what the deniers of God do. It's just a way to justify their disbelief. That I disbelieve in God because if God really exists, he should be able to do this, or he should do this. And we're going to talk, inshallah ta'ala, tomorrow about why that is wrong. Why it's wrong for humans to demand from God that he do X, Y, and Z that they specify in order for them to believe in him. But the first side of it, as I said, is it's not anything new. The believer's faith shouldn't be shaken by an old claim from the disbelievers, which has simply been what? Been recycled and given and presented nowadays with a contemporary veneer. More on this, inshallah ta'ala, tomorrow, brothers and sisters. Until then, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as always, to bless your houses, to bless your spouses, to bless your families and your children, to bless your sources of livelihood and income, to bless you and make you blessed wherever you may be, to bless what remains of your day, to shower you with his blessings and to surround you with his protection. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.